1. So this happened most of a year ago during my senior year at university. My junior and senior year, I had an off-campus apartment. There were 4 of us, and one guy left the apartment after the first year. So I had 2 of the same roommates for 2 years. One of them, let's call him Leon, smoked a ton of weed, and for the entire first year he would always trick to get me to smoke with him, but I never wanted to. Leading up to my birthday, I began to consider getting high with Leon for the first time, and eventually decided we would get some edibles and make a night of it. On Wednesday, I picked up a bunch of cookies from a friend of mine, and on Friday night we chowed down. I had recently purchased this color-changing rotating spotlight type thing, so we turned off the lights in our apartment, put on some South Park, turned the funky light on, and ate the edibles. Big mistake. Fun and memorable mistake. But it was still a mistake because the very first time getting high, I had ingested an entire edible by myself, and it turned out to be a particularly strong one. It honestly tasted kinda nasty, and had a weird texture, but I ate the whole thing and waited. It took 60 minutes, almost to the second, for it to kick in, and I kept complaining to Leon as I didn't fully appreciate how long it would take. At about 50 minutes, I started to feel my muscles loosen and relax like when you have a good buzz from drinking. A few minutes later came the giggles, and at 60 minutes I was completely useless. I fulfilled more than a couple of common stereotypes of being high and out of your mind. Constant laughing, saying stupid shit thinking it was profound. My hands are so weird. You name it. I probably did it that night. It was a ton of fun at first. It turned out that I was crazy sensitive to edibles, so I had a serious body high. Literally every single movement tickled. I could not stop laughing. We were having a really good time, and then I completely lost my mind. I got up and started walking around because of how weird it felt and how much it tickled. I started power walking in a circle around my small living room. The faster I walked, the more I laughed. And my laugh is not low-key or quiet. I have a maniacal, evil laugh. It was loud and quite a sight to see. Remember the funky, color-changing light? Well, my brain was completely overwhelmed, and I entered Joker laughing territory. It literally felt like a scene from a mirror funhouse at the circus. It must have been scary. The rest of the night is kinda blurry because it went by pretty quick. The next thing I remember is why I'm here today. Sitting on my couch again as I'm coming down, and it feels like my body is submerged in frozen syrup. My movements were sluggish, and I was clearly beginning to fade. I leaned my head back and closed my eyes, one of the worst mistakes I've ever made. I immediately felt my stomach churn and my eyes snapped open. I ran for my bathroom and only just made it to the toilet before I started relinquishing the contents of my stomach. I won't go too into the details, unless you really want me to, because it was horribly disgusting. My vomit got all over the floor, around the toilet, and I was puking for what felt like 30+ minutes. My entire body was shaking, and I was sweating on top of how tired and worn out I was. Every clench of my stomach ached, and it was quite painful. My mouth was crazy dry, and still being really high, my body was doing weird things. Even after I stopped throwing up, I kept dry heaving. Eventually that stopped, but what I felt was the muscle memory of throwing up. It was the second worst physical experience of my life, the worst being another story. It was truly a miserable time. I was sweating so profusely, and I had thrown up so much that I considered telling my roommates to take me to the hospital. I probably needed an IV to replenish my fluids, and maybe a hug. It was one of the most disgusting and horrible things I've ever experienced, and I hope you enjoyed hearing about it. 2. This didn't happen today, but happened when I was in kindergarten. Quite a while back. This is a long one, so suit up. I was quite little back then, and of course, I wasn't the smartest. Sure, I was bright, but not smart. I also considered myself not a very good listener, which brings us into the fuck-up. We were in class one day when our instructor announced that it was reading time. So of course we all grab our books and go to our favorite spot. I didn't move anywhere and just sat in my seat. My teacher then said that she needed to run to the restroom and she would return shortly. But the thing is, she didn't. She didn't need to use the restroom at all. She said something along the lines of, "Alright class, I'm going to run some copies on the printer. If you need to use the restroom, go ahead. You do not need permission." I took this as, "Alright class, I'm going to use the restroom. You can only use it when I come back." Now this wasn't a big deal for me, as I was just minding my own business. However, I soon had the urge to piss. The bathroom was directly down the hall from where the classroom was. Since I assumed that the teacher had to run to the restroom, I thought that she was in there. While it was a restroom that could fit more than one person, I had the mindset that you shouldn't be in the bathroom with a teacher. A little bit passes by, and I really have to piss. I jitter around in my seat, reading my magic school bus book. The teacher still wasn't back by then, as the printer was old and nearly broken. Now keep in mind I'm sitting with my legs up, covering my chest, with a book on top of my kneecaps. That is the position I was in when I started to take a piss. It started by flowing upwards, hitting the book. Piss was all over Arnold's face. As it dripped down the book, it got around my legs and proceeded to hit the chair, and dribble down off the ground to make a little puddle under my chair. I'm pissing a lot. The puddle grows bigger and bigger, and my pants are getting more damp. A good 15 seconds goes by, and there is now a very large puddle of piss under my chair. Somehow, and I swear to God, nobody noticed my huge puddle of piss, well, not until later. I am now trembling, as I fear that I'm in a lot of trouble. I can't clean the mess up, it's too big. There's not much that I can do than read my piss-ridden book. A good 15 minutes goes by before the teacher comes back. She walks by my desk and calls out to the class, "Alright everyone, meet me at the carpet." Oh shit. The best thing I could do in that situation, to hide the mess, was pull my chair over the puddle. Of course, it was still really noticeable, and there was more piss than the chair could cover. I grabbed my book and put the cover over my crotch area, so nobody would notice. Before the lesson even starts, my teacher calmly points over to my chair and says, "What is that?" Blah blah blah. I end up going to the office to get a new pair of pants from the lost and found. I wasn't in trouble or anything, but it scared me, and I thought I would get a reputation for the piss kid. 3. I was an 11-year-old boy when it all happened. I was friends with this neighborhood boy. We used to go to school together, we played together, and we studied together. We were like peas and carrots, and we loved each other's company, in a platonic way. He lived with his parents and his grandmother. His grandmother was a very peculiar person. She wasn't crazy, but something was definitely wrong with her. Maybe her mind slowly deteriorated with old age. Maybe something else happened which I never knew. She looked fine when she chatted with me every once in a while, but strangely she answered towards her dog Juju instead of me. And the dog used to stare at both of us while we were talking, and he used to get very confused with who's talking to whom. This one afternoon we were really bored and decided to play hide and seek. Another boy was there with us too. Friend's parents were out. He had a big house, so the plan looked really fine. We drew sticks and my friend lost. The other boy and I decided to scatter and hide inside the house. I ran and opened the first door I could find upstairs and stormed inside for hiding. And there she was. My friend's grandma, completely naked in front of me, changing her clothes. A stream of awkward feeling flowed through my spine and I froze. Grandma was confused too. Juju was in that room also. He got confused way more than usual. The three of us were looking at each other for about a couple of seconds before I explained my situation quickly and went for the door to leave as my friend screamed from downstairs, "I am coming!" It all went wrong. Terribly wrong. Granny grabbed my hand from the back and pulled me back inside the room and shut the door behind her.
"Well, you gotta hide, boy,"
she whispered with an excitement in her voice.
"Let's hide under the bed, quick."
And before I knew anything, we three, I, Juju, and Crazy Naked Granny, were under the bed. She was in her mid-50s. She exercised and jogged regularly. She was fit. And as you can imagine, 12-year-old horny me had an erection the size of an East Coast lighthouse. With every passing second, I became increasingly uneasy, and Juju got more and more confused. I wanted to run from there, but Granny was grabbing my hand with all the power she got in her naked body. After God knows how long, both of them boys stepped inside the room and started looking for me. As my friend said, "I know you're here, man." Juju barked, "Ruff!" My friend quickly looked down under the bed and screamed, "Ah, got y—" He froze in the middle of his claim. All of the blood on his face disappeared and went into my face. Granny screamed, "You found us, honey!" And Juju said, "Ruff!" I didn't say anything, not a word, and slowly stood up. The boner was still there. The three of us were confused beyond reason. We left both of them inside the room as soon as possible. I left the house soon after. Too many questions were left unanswered that day. After that incident, our friendship never fully recovered from that pit. 4. I was having a great day last Saturday. I spent the afternoon at a friend's house and had a really attractive Tinder date coming up soon. Around 3 p.m. I return home to freshen up and prepare for the night out. This involves loading my wallet condoms, showering, and reloading my keychain pill vials. I have one for digestive health as I get severe constipation issues, and another with anxiety meds to help keep my cool. My suppositories for emergency constipation use are in my bag. Fast forward to 6:30 p.m. and I'm heading out the door to drive 45 minutes to meet my date at a shopping mall, where we would then walk to Longhorn Steakhouse and hopefully Netflix and chill afterward. Traffic has me running behind schedule and I'm getting anxious as hell. I reach to my keychain, unscrew one vial and pop a pill. Phew. After long minutes later, and I'm greeting my Tinder date, I only end up being 5 minutes late. We're soon shopping. She makes me go into Victoria's Secret from her. I'm so out of place in there, and growing ever anxious about this whole date. Literally shaking. I need laid tonight or my balls will fall off. To top it all off, my stomach is grumbling like mad. Fast forward 20 minutes. She wants to bang so bad, so dinner is being replaced with a drive-thru, and we're in her car heading to her apartment. I literally am on the verge of exploding mentally with anxiety, that I haven't exactly noticed what's happening with my bowels. We're 5 minutes from her house when things start clicking. I'm prairie dogging with the first sight of turd peeking out of my anus, and I realize I must have mixed up my vials and taken my poop pill instead of my anxiety pill. Shit! I'm praying I can hold it in. I check my pills to confirm the mix-up. I failed to hold it in, and release my bowels into my pants as we pull into her apartment complex. Date is over. I hop out of the car dripping shit and run into the woods. I spend the next hour crying behind a log before cleaning my ass with leaves and taking the right pill. It's getting hard to see, so I open Google Maps and spy a nearby Walmart on the other side of the woods, covered in shit and mud, I walk in and buy clothes. I proceed to wash up as best I can in the bathroom, and order a lift ride back to my car. I haven't heard back from her. She has my dinner and quite a mess in her car. I messaged her on Monday offering to pay for cleaning and to explain. She didn't respond. It's been a week. She's not talking. Worst freaking date night ever. 5. Happened when I was 14. So how it all began. My strictly Christian parents found out that I was an atheist and got really mad at me. They started calling me a freak, saying that I was gonna burn in hell, etc. Then, when they found out that I was bisexual, they sent me to Bible camp to cure me of my sins. I was allowed to bring my phone, so I did. When I got there, I felt that the Looney Book people would literally burn you at the stake if you mentioned the Lord's name in vain. The actual camp was pretty boring, but tame, as long as you don't sin. So I tried to be quiet and keep my head down so I don't accidentally trigger them. As days flew by, more and more people came, somehow. And long story short, 6 or 7 people, including me, ended up forming the I'm edgy because I'm an atheist club. We joke around and mess with people by teasing them about Christianity dying, and then remind them that it was written in the Bible that thou shalt forgive thy enemy or something like that. So they'd forgive us, and we could basically exploit their faith into them being submissive. Everything was going great until some staff had the whitest idea ever to organize a prom, and well, the I Say Hail Satan to be edgy club didn't like that. We started making fun of it, spreading rumors that it'd go down in an abandoned house, or some stupid shit like that. And well, I ended up falling for a cute guy in the Black Metal club, and he usually joked about getting some death metal in the prom playlist. And well, I was a huge, and still am a huge, death metal fan. So me being the thirsty teenager that I was, I decided to place some Cannibal Corpse there to impress him. Fast forward to 2 days later, the time has come. They had a surprisingly good sound system, 4 speakers on each corner of the room, and 1 big speaker seated on a chair near the staff area. My plan was to sneak into the room where the laptop with the music was, and to plug the aux cord into my phone. I was as sneaky as Solid Snake, and my snake was as hard Snake. Everything went as smooth as butter. The audio was clear enough to distinguish the shock lyrics of Hammer Smashed Face, or some other song by them, don't remember exactly. And the guy I had a crush on was particularly social this evening. About halfway into the prom, I told him that I was going to take a piss and be right back, so he doesn't expect it. I waited until nobody was in the way, but as I entered the room I realized that there was somebody in it. So I was ready to give up, when a glimmer of hope shone through the clouds. The DJ exited the booth to tell something to the kids, presumably that someone just released a fire gospel track called Pray For Me. I'm trying to be funny, okay? When I saw the opportunity, I quickly snuck in the booth and plugged my phone in. The crowd was shocked. The guy I had a crush on was stunned. Yes, my plan has worked. Even the DJ laughed and didn't come rushing into the booth to spray some holy water on me. And then everything went south, and north at the same time. I heard a scream of frustration and something fall, and the glorious sound of that sweet tune was lowered a lot. And then came the sounds of someone crying, something being kicked and some yelling. I instinctively replugged the cord into the laptop and came running out of the booth. I ran up to my crush and asked him what happened. He looked at me in amazement, and his exact words were, "Holy shit! You played metal here and made an autistic girl break the speaker!" I looked at him in confusion and asked him about the second part, and without his answer, it came to me. I indirectly made an autistic teenager have a mental breakdown and break the speaker. After that, prom got cancelled, and we came back to our room. I asked him out. Surprisingly enough, he said yes. And we're still dating to this day. And here come the consequences. Someone has snitched on me. And well, I got kicked out and forced to pay for the 400 CHF speaker. I told my boyfriend what happened and ended up slipping in a joke about how they didn't offer me to be molested by them as an alternative. And well, someone overheard me and called my parents. And when they found out about me listening to Satan's music, getting a boyfriend and breaking the speaker, they put me up for adoption. But it all worked out in the end because I got adopted by a very accepting family that lived relatively close to my boyfriend. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to 5 True Embarrassing Stories, episode 54. Big thanks to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Well, that last story was a bit of a roller coaster. It's hard to imagine any parent being so angry at their child they'd give them up for adoption. Well, I suppose it worked out, in the end. Okay, so I'm gonna head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.